Good day everyone. I'm Merlo C. Katipunan, the third presenter of this subject. From the past two reporters, they had both discussed the Civil Engineering Code of Ethics and Obligation, but they are focusing on the fundamental principles, the definition of terms, the ethics, and the first three of the fundamental canons under the Civil Engineering Code of Ethics. Now, I am going to discuss purely on the obligation of civil engineering. But before I am going to start, I am advising everyone that whatever may the interpretation, the understanding that I will use in this report, it is based on my own perception. You are all advised to confirm this information by doing research and attend also by asking some questions to our professor. We knew that we have 7 fundamental canons, and the 3 had already discussed by the second presenter. Now, I am going to discuss the remaining 4. Number 4, act professionally as faithful trustees for each of your employer or client. Whatever may the information that is part of the design or your proposed project, you have to confidentially share. Open it to your client so that they will know if what is the point of interest or the conflict of interest, and perhaps you will be able to discuss on how you are going to minimize that conflict. And also, being professional, if you are working to a certain client or employer, you should not work into others because you are not practicing a good conduct of being a professional. Additionally, a civil engineer shall not accept contract from the governmental body if the officer or the principal of this organization serves as a member. Number 5, build professional reputation and compete fairly. How are we going to compete with other civil engineers where in fact they have also that reasonable skill? First, we have to build our own mark. Find as to where is your expertise, where you are going to excel. And most of civil engineers, not only in this profession, we have our own desire. We wanted to be promoted in specified time. That is our goal. And we forgot that if we wanted to hit that goal, we have to work hard. Others will falsify their credentials just to be qualified, and that is not morally right. Others will also give gifts just for a certain position. Again, that is not morally right. And this is the most common one. Other professionals, they are going to own the work of others, and that is not right. If you are professional, then you should acknowledge that that is you, that is your skill, and we must be aware of that. The manner of upholding integrity, dignity, and honor in civil engineering profession, and also that zero tolerance for bribery, fraud, and corruption, that should be practiced as part of our behavior, especially if we are in the field. And I would like only to comment on the corruption. This is very common everywhere. Wherever you are, not only in this profession, but for all types of profession, corruption is vulnerable and that is visible. And for example, in the design, in our proposed project, if what are the materials that are specified and the quantity, the number, and the design itself, we have to adhere, we have to stick, and what is the standard? We should not minimize the standard or to substandard the material just to get the amount of money. Then where is the quality? And the last fundamental canon is continue professional development. As you can observe that from the past 3 fundamental canons, it focuses on the professional conduct or the behavior as a professional. But the last one, it focuses on the development, on how you are going to develop as a professional. And we knew already that in civil engineering, it is changing. The data is not permanent. And for us to be competent, we have to adapt, we have to immerse ourselves in the new emerging ideas. Additionally, we have also to involve ourselves on some of the trainings conducted in different places or in different organizations, especially in the PICE, or the Philippine Institute of Civil Engineering. I had just done presenting the fundamental canons, and now I am going to discuss to you the obligation of civil engineer. And I would like only to differentiate obligation from responsibility. The obligation that is being referred here is the duty to be taken or the act to do. And we are not accountable, we are not responsible to whatever may the circumstances. As a professional, that is your duty. You have to act that way, but you are not responsible. Whereas in responsibility, you are accountable of your act. In obligation, you will just perform and act what is being mandated. The first obligation of civil engineer is in accordance to Republic Act number 544, or the Civil Engineering Law. I am not a law student, but since it is mandated or it is written in this law under Article 1, Section 2A, the obligations of civil engineer is specified, and we are bounded by our duty to perform like the design, the preparation of plan, the estimates, and once these are already done, we are now responsible for our obligation to do the installation, the supervision of the projects, just like the railroads, the buildings, the highways, and name those projects that involves civil works. And for after how many years this project had been established, and once it will not withstand by some disaster that will come, it will be demolished permanently. And still, that is the obligation of civil engineer. We are tasked to do it because those professional civil engineer know what to do, because they had studied this type of profession. I believe we are all equal before the law, since all of the obligations of civil engineers are already presented and defined in the Republic Act number 544, the Civil Engineering Law. And we are also told for this second obligation as civil engineers to exercise reasonable skill, care, and diligence to obligation. We knew our obligation. We have to do it in whatever may our personal reasons. We have to set aside, because that is your duty. And if you will not do that, who else will perform your duty? And the third obligation of civil engineer is to act independently. This is the time that you are going to apply your professional judgment. For example, in the contract, if there is a problem, then you will, as a civil engineer, you have to apply that discretion. You have to decide as how you are going to solve or how you are going to give solution for the problem in the contract. If your presence or if it needs that it should be certified, then you have to decide on your own based on your professional level or understanding. Number 4, make written reports. As a civil engineer, your clients believe in you. You are authorized to write whatever may the changes in the scope of services on the project that is being proposed, you have to create a written report so that the client will be informed on the changes. Number 5, there will be no service without the approval of clients. We knew that the services that are being offered in the contract or by the civil engineers, there is a stage or level to perform, to act it out. And in the absence of the approval of the client, you as a civil engineer shall not proceed to the next stage of the services. That is not permitted. We are obliged to follow it. I mean the civil engineer. And number 6, recommend but not reassured or relieve. If there will be some changes on the design, a civil engineer can recommend to other manufacturers some changes of the design, but he or she is not responsible or reassured whatever may the outcome of the changes in the design. The last obligation of the civil engineer, I summarize this as civil engineer's interest versus client's interest. And it is very clear that the civil engineer has an ideal, and so with the client. Now, as a civil engineer, you have to present, to tell your client that this should be done. This is my condition. This is my considerable condition. And if the client will not agree, he or she will disagree to your viewed ideal, then you shall not reject. You have to talk. There should be a common solution to your interest that the both sides will benefit. I had just done presenting the obligations of civil engineer, and those information can be viewed and read in our manual. Now, I am going to add these duties of civil engineer as presented by some of the seasoned civil engineers in the YouTube channel. They had presented the real work of civil engineer based on their experiences. And first, they presented this first duty, which is to analyze some of the data like the surveys, the reports on the previous study. You are going to collect it so that that will be the basis of your design. You can create a pre-analysis based on that data. Second, consider. As a civil engineer, what are you going to consider as part of your duty? Take a look on the environmental hazards, the cost, and the government regulation. And commenting on the environmental hazard, you have to consider what will be the impact if I'm going to pursue this type of project and situated or put it in this area. What will happen to the environment, especially the people? Are they going to adapt, or how is this possible to be integrated into their everyday life? Number 3, compile and submit. What are you going to submit? Of course, the permit. You have to submit or file it into the local, the state, or in any agencies that is related for the validation and approval of your project. Number 4, the duty of civil engineer shall also perform soil testing and the materials. Soil testing is done by the geotechnical engineer for the foundation or the strength of the soil. And for the materials, we have different codes, just like the ESTM for the steel, the ACI for the concrete. There are specified procedures on how we are going to conduct a test for these materials, for the steel and the concrete, the asphalt. It is specified in the code, even in our NSCP code. Another duty of civil engineer is the cost estimation. Cost estimation, this is related to the economy. Some of the materials are costly. Then the duty of civil engineer is to select that the minimum cost that the client will benefit. Both of the party will benefit. Another duty of civil engineer is to design and provide findings. During the construction, before the construction, a civil engineer should conduct a survey on the elevation or the grades in the site so that the workers will be guided. And during the construction, there will be no difficulty on what to do because it is already planned. And the last duty of civil engineer is the management. From the beginning, the project has been installed or it is already done. After how many years, probably there will be a chance that it will fail. Or even in the hospital, there will be a maintenance, checking for the materials, for the structure. And that is a duty of civil engineer to check, repair, and provide maintenance for the whole structure. Thank you so much for watching. Reiterating, this is Merlo C. Katipunan, who believes obligation obligates obligator and be obliged. Thank you.